Okay, so we have a quorum.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. As you know, the meeting's being recorded. The meeting format now is consistent with the current state law for running meetings. And that means you can do hybrid meetings, you can do Zoom meetings, and you can do in-person meetings. Is that correct, Kristen? Yes. Okay, great. So I'm assuming you all have the agenda.
Mhm.
Okay, wonderful. The reason I put the first agenda item on, which is discussion of the Foster House, is because I thought we were going to have a member of the public who wanted to have some comments on that. Do we know if Reg Foster has joined?
He has, so, and you should be able to see it too. So if you click at the bottom, participants, once you open that tab, you'll have a tab that says panelists and attendees, and you should be able to see attendees as there. So I will allow Reg to come over to speak. Is that correct?
Well, yes, I'd like to have Reg come on, but I'd like to have Gloria sort of talk about her, where she's at with this topic, because it was something she wanted to discuss.
Sure. So do you want to wait to bring him over, or?
No, I don't. It's up to you, Gloria. What do you think? Mute. Can't hear you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, good.
Would you like to have Reg now, or would you like to speak first and then have Reg?
Either way, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Okay, so we get,
Bring him over.
yeah. So
Hi, Reg. Reg, are you there?
he's muted. He's muted.
Reg, can you
Okay,
unmute?
I will start. I will start. As you know, there is a proposal before town meeting to purchase some 30 acres of land on Charles River Street, currently belonging to the Foster estate. The overall project is a development project by Northland Residential to build 70 or so units on that property, set aside some of it for buffer, some of it for public land. The town will have some of it for public land. The overall project will preserve a large part of that parcel as open land. It will, however, pretty certainly, nothing's been, nobody's said this directly and it hasn't been guaranteed, but pretty certainly the house will be demolished to carry out this project. There's no affirmative plan, as far as anybody can see, to preserve or reuse the house. And Reg, as you can guess from his last name, is a relative. He's not a member of the family that currently owns the house. That's cousins of his, but he is a descendant of the Foster who built it, and he is a relative of the family and has a great deal of interest in preserving the property. So he and I and one or two others have been talking about, what the potential was for preservation. This house, I should mention, is on the Heritage 3 list, the one that was never completed. But, so therefore we were looking at it, but it is not protected by demolition delay. there are several problems that we can foresee or already understand regarding the potential preservation of the property. First of all, it would cost a lot of money to repair the house and bring it up to code. Just up front. Unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be a purpose within the Northland plan for the not to, there's no proposed clubhouse or central place or event facility. To get another organization to take it over would require Northland's cooperation and an organization with enough money to make the necessary repairs and renovations to the house. It's difficult to propose it to the town because without an affirmative use of the house and without any real prospect of public access, it's a little hard to convince them that this is a useful, this is a good use of town money. And on top of it, the way Northland's purchase and sales is written, the town is being offered extremely favorable land deal, purchase and preservation of some very, very desirable land for roughly $2.5 million, which is pittance, given the value of the land, given its location, given its quality. That deal, town has to approve that funding at next Monday's town meeting, has to approve that funding, first of all. But secondly, the deal will not go through if Northland does not get its permits. So finding a way to sort of to create obstacles to their demolition will also create obstacles to the town's purchase of the land. The other scenario, or the worst case scenario, is the purchase doesn't go through for some reason, the land goes back on the market, and the developer buys it and just breaks it into 34 buildings or 60 something buildings. So there's a very big upside to this proposed plan. The downside is the demolition of the house. And as I said, at this point, we're not seeing a way forward that's a win-win in terms of preservation of the house. And I know
Reg, I'm sorry, Reg, can you mute yourself? Thank you. Do we have a photo of this home? Is there any way to look at this home?
Yeah. I have photos.
There's a beautiful video of the whole operation of looking over it, I guess,
Chris,
done with the drone.
Can I share my screen? Can you make me a co-host? Because I do have let's see. Let me open that one. And let me open.
Are you able to do it now, Gloria?
Let me just grab.
Sure.
Try to get one of the images open. For some reason doesn't want to open. That's not good. Come on, you there? Just bear with me a second. Just want to get. Got several. A lot of good work for the house. Okay. Now. Okay, so I can share. Let's start with this one. This is the concept plan. Can you see this? That the town circulated when they put out the put out the press release. So here's Charles River Street. This is the estate. Going down to the there is a private residence within it that will remain a right of way. Northland will be developing this section, and basically the town will be buying these. This has been incorporated at some point into Ridge Hill. So these sections will be become town land. So this whole stretch will be town land. This will be Northlands. There will be a buffer along Whitman Road. They'll be building, and here's where the house is currently located. Oops, sorry. So here's where the house is currently located, and let me just get you a picture of the house. This is a picture of the house itself. If you go online, there are numerous interior pictures as well on some of the real estate sites, realtor.com, Zillow, Redfin. When the house was listed, there were a lot of very nice pictures. The house is beautiful. There's no question. It has some interesting and important historic connections to Needham. I mean, it's no question this is a house that should be on our inventory, but unfortunately it's not. But as you can see from the site plan, it's going to be well within the property. So making a case that it would become a public amenity would be extremely difficult. So I think there's Reg probably has a lot he wants to add to that.
Yes, I think I finally worked out the tech problems here. Can people hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. I had another meeting. The Climate Action Planning Committee had their kickoff meeting just before now, so you can't catch me sitting in my garage with my iPhone here, having left that meeting, and I apologize for the tech. Yes, I want to start by saying that I think this plan that's been put out by Northland Residential and the Select Board, when you dig into the details of it, it's an extraordinarily good opportunity for Needham. It gives the town an enormous number of advantages that are have been important to this town for a long time. My connection here is the lady who passed away just a couple of years ago was my aunt, and my father and three brothers grew up there as Needhamites, and the original owner, builder of the house, and the property is my great grandfather who moved out to the country in 1901 with his very large family, and needed a large house to move into in the country. So I just wanted to say that I am a town meeting member, and I'm going to be voting in support of this plan because of the huge benefits to the town of Needham. By the way, voting in support doesn't mean it's going to be done. What it means is it kicks off a process with the Zoning Board of Appeals to negotiate a local initiative program. This is like a friendly 40B. You may have heard that term. It's an exception to all the zoning rules that would prevent the development of a 70-unit cluster townhouse development in that neighborhood, in the area that Gloria indicated on her slide. There's a lot more information about this project, Gloria, that's just been posted to the town meeting site, showing much more detail of how the development's going to be, at least conceptually, and there's a facts, frequently asked questions bulletin there that answers almost any question that I think anybody would have about this. But what this will happen at town meeting is we'll kick off a several month process where the developer presents much more detailed and refined concrete plans for the development, and ultimately a four-fifths vote of the ZBA is required to authorize this local initiative program, set of zoning exceptions. So there's many, going to be many questions from the neighbors. One of the next door neighbors I noticed was on the attendee list here tonight, Bill Kettle. He may want to say something. But with my what's for the best interest of Needham hat on, in a nutshell, I think this is a wonderful development that Needham has this opportunity. Having said that, I first set foot in that house in June of 1950. So I guess I didn't set foot. I was carried in to be presented to my great grandfather before he died in 1955, and been there in many family occasions ever since. And I can testify that if you do take the trouble to look at the interior pictures of the house, or I can provide some links to Gloria that she can send around to the historical commission members. It is it is exactly the way it looks, and it looks exquisite. It's a little piece of historical Needham, and one of the maybe last pieces or big pieces that remain. And of course, from a personal point of view and family point of view, it is a terrible thing to contemplate it being torn down and being replaced by cluster townhouses, no matter how worthy a goal it is. So I did approach Gloria informally 4 weeks ago when this was announced, to see if there was any possibility of figuring out an alternate destiny than the wrecking ball for the house, the property itself. I really do know this house very intimately, so I second what Gloria says. There's sort of 3 major impediments to historic preservation, and they tend to be money, and use. So the first money is that I happen to know at a very detailed level that it needs about $5 million, $4 to $6 million of restoration and renovations in order to be, back to 21st century standards for use for something. The second is, whatever that something is, you have to have money to operate a property like that. So, you're looking at an endowment of a couple $1 million to generate the income that would be needed to do that. And the third impediment is there is no, obvious immediate use for the property that I have heard about in the years that I've lived in Needham. I mean, you can speculate that it would make a wonderful conference center. You could speculate that it might have another use, or that could be sort of imagined, but right now there is no specific use identified. I would, the wrecking ball is not going to start, the day after town meeting, and what's going to start is the ZBA process that will lead to ultimately, hopefully, the approval of the local initiative program by the Board of Zoning Appeals. Of course, there's lots of miles that need to go before that they get to that point, and that's not necessarily a foregone conclusion.
Reg, it's
yeah.
Laura, if you don't mind, just in the interest of time, what have there been any conversations with Northland and Who is the owner of the property right now?
The estate owns the property.
So
And
is there
there's
a representative of the
there's-
estate that anyone's, is Northland? I mean, is there anything, any communication about doing something different with just this piece of the parcel, to your knowledge, or no?
I don't know of any communications with I have not been part of any communications with Northland whatsoever, so I don't know what may or may not have happened.
Okay. And
you
Gloria,
know.
I mean, we can't just like, I mean, how do you get something? How old is this house?
Built in 1901.
I mean, I don't know what the criteria is to be listed on an inventory, and I don't know how fast you can do that, and I don't know if this is even a possibility. Just wondering what you think. You're muted.
This is where it gets tricky. We scouted the house for the inventory. We have all the information. One of the things that held us up was that, you know, there was no possibility at the time of communicating with the owners to get permission. We don't really need permission to put it on the inventory. We can just vote it onto the inventory. And once we do that, then we can impose the demolition delay. Having said that, we will then, you know, we're then opening a whole other can of worms. By creating the potential for delay, we could be obstructing the potential for Northland to go through with the deal. As I said, if that deal, you know, if that deal is scuttled, then the property goes back on the market and there's no guarantee that there's going to be anything better, you know, for the town or for the house on the horizon. So we can do it. We can do it. It's not going to make us any friends. And
Is there a way to,
and you know, the
have-
question we have to is that, you know, is it worth our time? You know, or do we keep our, you know, the same way we made the decision not to pursue Ridge Hill so we could put our, you know, put our efforts and credibility into Emery Grover. You know, does pursuing this and causing potential problems for the completion of the deal, you know, which honestly 6-month delay is not
Right.
going to make any difference.
Is there
you
a
know.
way to, I mean, would the people at Northland, I don't know who the contact people are, but is there a way to have a conversation with them via some other, I don't know who's involved at the town level, but I mean, is there a way
Yeah.
to sort of just pop this up as something to talk about with them through the proper conduits?
Presumably there is, I mean, yeah, I don't see why there wouldn't be. But I think there, Reg, does the new information posting have a site plan?
Yes,
At
it
all?
does. It has a conceptual
Okay.
site plan.
Yeah. And I'm assuming that runs over the side of the house.
Yes, not only that, but posted on the Needham YouTube channel is the select board meeting of 1 week ago,
Mhm.
last Tuesday. And there was a 1-hour presentation by the president of Northland Residential to the select board and all the audience members, laying out exactly what they had in mind for the development and why. And I think they did a really good job of making a very compelling case that this was in the best interest of Needham.
Yeah.
And everybody can go watch that tonight or whenever you get a chance to dial into the YouTube channel.
I mean, the issue for me is not so much talking to Northland, but what is it we're asking them to do? You know, are we asking them to spend $5+ million to renovate the house and bring it up to code? They can't have a non-compliant property sitting in the middle of their development. It becomes a liability to them. if they don't have a function within their development, then it's very hard to convince them that they're gonna fix this house at their expense and then not have anything to do with it. It's very hard to convince the town that there's a benefit to fixing up the house when there's no real proposed use. And because this is going to be private property, there's no prospect, the Northland portion will be private property. There's no real prospect that even if you did fix up the house, people would have access to it. It's not going to become a public property. It's not going to become something that
What
people
was your-
can go to.
What was your hope for tonight then with the discussion?
I unfortunately had very little hope. I just wanted to let you know what had been discussed and what was coming up. I'm pretty sure that Reg is not quite ready to throw in the towel, but I don't see a way forward that preserves this house.
So just one follow-up question to that. So this house was built in 1901, clearly has attributes of a historical specimen. I mean, are we missing other homes like this
Almost
that we
certainly.
should be trying to look at before we're in this position where it's too late?
We probably are. Honestly, one of the reasons we even know about it, apart from knowing Reg, and who has his own historic house and has been before this commission to discuss plans for his own renovations. We have one of the daughters of the house, Hilda Foster, wrote a memoir, and in that she incorporated her memories of the house, and also tidbits of information about that we wouldn't have necessarily have known, that Charles Foster kept an extensive diary for 50 years. These properties of the Massachusetts Historical Society, so they're not in our possession. We really would not have known that much about the estate if it hadn't been for the fact that we were given a copy of Hilda's memoir, and we were sort of familiar with that. And when this Foster estate came up, that rang a bell, and then we went back and looked at these materials. These houses are not visible from the street. They're not amenable to visiting. Carol Boris and I, when we were compiling the list for Heritage 3 several years ago, did venture. We did exactly that. We said there must be some great properties on South Street and Charles River Street that should be listed. We ventured up some driveways, and we got chased off by some extremely scary security people on several of them.
No, but
it's not you don't see them, so they're
I understand, but there are ways
they're out of sight,
finding
out of mind to some
inventory that's
you
not.
could do a systematic search through like the assessor's list or something. Yeah,
Exactly. So I don't know if that's something to think about or not.
it would be. Yeah, I'm sure there are properties that we don't have on the list. We ought to of exactly that type.
Right.
Turn of the century estates that were built in that part of town.
Okay. Does the group feel that there's any more discussion on this particular property, or anything more we should do to try to save it? Or any ideas about working with the developer, or is this just sort of a discussion item and we're moving on? Hi, Rose.
Hi there. My observation is that it is a beautiful house, and yet there is the money, use, and add another thing, access issue. I mean, if we're talking 4 to 6 million to bring it up to code, and then establishing a $2 million endowment, I'm not even sure where the 2 million would come from, or who would do the preparation, and then there is the use. And if it's going to be on private property, how does one, you know, create a marketing plan, a business plan that would make it all worthwhile? I don't see a way to preserve this. And I'm sorry, Reg, because it is a beautiful house. But that is my thought.
Anybody else, Dawn or?
No, this is just another example of the dilemma that we're in with the historic homes in town. This one might be an extreme case because of the amount of money it would take to bring it up to code. But you know, we face this with lesser properties as well.
Well, we know it. Yeah.
So at this point, do we, I'm not sure what we do right now. Do we need a motion, or are we just moving on to the next topic?
No, I think this at this point was just informational. This, you know,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
story's going to go on. There's going to be, you know, obviously there's going to be the town meeting presentation. There's going to be ongoing discussion with the ZBA, with the finance committee. It's, you know, it's not, the town meeting vote is not the only action, and this process is going to go on for a while. And I think if anything
Okay,
does become evident, you know, we'll see it. But at this point, I think that we're just,
and
it's
at
just
some
something to
point,
keep on
maybe,
your radar screen.
maybe we see some way to jump in at some point. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah,
One made
something to
for
keep an
you,
eye on,
and
something to watch, and at this point, just be
Okay.
informed about.
Okay, sure, Reg, yep.
yeah, there was one thing when I was talking informally with Gloria, which is, first of all, by the way, the FinCom has voted unanimously to oppose the project. And one of the things that occurred to me is that there is going to be a lot of discussion at town meeting. It requires a 2/3 vote to pass, not a 50%. And at some point, it is likely that somebody is going to ask the Historic Commission as to what is their position with respect to this property. And that was the other reason I think, Gloria, you mentioned that you were going to
Yeah.
maybe suggest that you have it on the agenda tonight so that you do have a position that you know, can, other than saying we don't have a position, or other than saying we didn't even talk about it here. So that was something you might want to
That's
consider.
true. That's
I'm
true.
not sure, Kristen, is this something that I'm not sure this is something that should be part of our purview?
As far as taking a position on it, or where you,
Taking a position on it and hearing what other committees may or may not do on it. I'm not sure that's something for us to.
no, you can, because Reg is correct, it is gonna come up, and you will need to decide what your position is on this, and if you're in support of it or not.
Okay. Thank you.
Jeff is a member of town meetings. Anybody else a member of town meeting?
I am.
Okay, so then we will have somebody there.
Okay, so I guess we are where we are, and can we move on to the next item? Yes. Reg, thank you so much. You're welcome to obviously stay on for your.
I'll go back to being an attendee here.
Okay,
Good night,
Uh,
everybody.
good night, Reg. So the next item, and it seems like out of order, but I want to make sure Reg got to speak and didn't have to sit on the meeting all night, is that we have two new commissioners, one of whom has been sworn in and is on this call as we speak, and the other is on as a public as a resident who will be sworn in. And so I want to introduce them and have them definitely Kristen, is it okay for Leah to explain her background to everybody? I know. Okay, so Joe's been sworn in. Joe Morrell has been sworn in. Joe, can you just share your background with the rest of the commission?
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to be a newest member of the committee. My name is Joe Morrell. I live on Oakland Ave behind the school administration building, which I'm very happy to see finally being restored. I have lived in town since 2011, after 20 years in corporate real estate development and construction. I am, for the past 5 years, been a general contractor builder, and I specialize in the renovation and restoration of historic homes, is kind of where my wheelhouse is. I haven't done any new home construction yet, though it's hard not to in the future, but a lot of my focus over the past 5 years since I've started my business has been in a lot of historic restoration. It was great to hear Reg's story there. It's a interesting house to take a look at. I think it was something that we shouldn't definitely punt on. I think we should maybe circle back on that after that kind of gets further down the road. But that's kind of my background. I have 2 young kids in the Needham Public School System, one at Pollard and one at Sunita Williams. And I look forward to being an active participant on the committee.
Thank you, Joe. That was awesome. Okay, and Leah, just on a technicality, hasn't been sworn in yet. But Leah, if you don't mind just sharing your background as well.
Sure. Yeah, I will get sworn in soon. I promise. It was just a rough week.
No
So
worries.
I'm Leah Wilkovich Cordy. I am new to Needham. We just bought an historic house ourselves. It was built in 1884. We moved in about 3 months ago. So very happy to jump in with both feet, both personally and as part of the commission. For my professional career, I am an architect, and I work for a firm that has done a lot of reservation or preservation work. We do new builds as well, but really trying to find that balance between preserving the old and moving forward is really what I love to do, what my firm loves to do. And I'm actually currently working on a project with a historic home in Brookline that's part of a larger development. So hearing Reg's story was like part of what I do every day. And it is an absolute challenge on how you make those old homes work, because they're beautiful, and his was a beautiful example, but there's a lot of challenges with trying to make a historic house work now. So happy to be here and lend some of my experience to some of these conversations.
Thank you.
Can I ask where your house is?
It's on the corner of Pleasant and Kimball Street near Needham Junction.
Okay.
So I think we have 2 amazing new
Yeah.
members, really. And I'm really, really happy that you're both here. And you'll see there's a lot of interesting twists and turns here. But you also, there's a group, not including me, but like the other group members, Dawn, Gloria, and Rose, who are very tenured in this role and with this committee. And so they're great guidance for everybody, for me, and they will be for you too. So I like the combination of having, some more tenured senior, not age, just senior commission members, along with newer, less tenured members who have maybe current experience that some of us don't have. So that's great. And so hopefully we'll see Leah as a member next time.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And we're so happy to have both of you.
As a practical matter, can you both send me your contact information?
Yes, we need to update
So
our
we can
list.
get, so I can update the list.
Yes. Thank you, Gloria. The next,
Also have a thought. I would just like to
yes,
say to both
please,
of you.
yes, of course.
Welcome. And one of the things that we are working on all the time is making ourselves more visible to the public. And I wonder, you don't have to decide now whether we could do an announcement to be printed in either, well, certainly on your website, Gloria, and put in the paper about 2 new members and of the commission. Would you object to that? That's not fair. That was an awful question. Wouldn't it be terrible if you said, yes, I object? Oh, sorry about that. I'll be quiet now. I think I'm actually blushing. Sorry, I'm going to get some water.
Oh, Rose.
If you want to send me, if you each want to send me a short bio, I would be happy to post them.
Yeah, anything we can do to get the word out. The town doesn't really post things like this, but could I, Kristen, on my own Facebook page, like 2 new members? Okay. So I'll do that too. So here we are, we're a fully staffed commission, which is great. So shall we move on to the next topic?
Yep.
So the next topic is our ongoing discussion of the creation of a local historic district. I take
Wait a minute.
that back.
Point of order.
The minutes.
Our next topic is the minutes, my bad. Joe, I apologize. I got those to you late. I am so sorry. Leah, I'm not sure if you have them yet. And I'm not sure if I can email them to you, Kristen, or not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, once they're approved, you can send them to me and then I post them.
Okay, so we have to approve them first.
Correct. Yeah, nothing can be posted until it's approved.
Okay. So did you guys get a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Anybody have any comments on the minutes? No? Okay. My only comment is, I mean, I love, they're great. I have no changes. Just there's a paragraph that will lead into our next discussion, Gloria, which is great. That dovetails nicely. So is there a motion?
I move that we accept the minutes of the September 19th meeting.
I'll second that.
I'll second.
Oh, now that we
Yeah.
have new rules, do we have to do roll call or can we do hands?
Yeah, should we do roll call? We
Roll
should.
call still.
Okay. Okay, so I will start with Rose,
Yes, aye.
Dawn,
Aye.
Gloria. Can you vote?
Aye.
Joe, did you have a chance to read them?
I did.
Thank you. So they're approved. So Leah will.
And you can vote too, Laura.
I did.
Oh, okay, sorry.
The chair votes, I did vote, but I'll vote again. Okay, great. So the next topic was the discussion of our LHD districts, which we've been talking about for a long time. And I guess, Kristen, if you don't mind, I have a question for you. I had asked for some clarification on where our goal of establishing an LHD stood with the select board. And the email response I got was that it would be presented to the May 23 town meeting. And so I'm just not sure what we can do in the interim. Gloria had some great ideas in her minutes about, you know, trying to get support and doing certain things in advance of the vote, but I don't know what we are allowed to do and I also don't know what the select board would need from us in order to present it to town meeting. Can you help us with that?
So I would, go ahead, Rose, if you want to.
Well, I would just say one of the things that they'll probably ask for is what do our matchmate towns do with this kind of information? And that's what you've already been collecting. So
So
that's
we have some of that information, yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
okay. I'm done.
No, that's fine. So Kristen, does it mean, like Gloria suggested, should we work at some FAQs? Should we think about ways to educate the public on this? Do a slideshow, like,
Yeah, you need to be as pulled together as possible with everything that you want to present and how you want to go forward with this. So if you need to have another chairs meeting prior to that, that can be something that's scheduled, but it's definitely at a point where pull together all the information to present to the residents and present to select board.
so sort of our reasoning, our background, okay. Dawn?
Yeah, I had a question. Why is it going to town meeting when it's a select board decision to create a study committee as the next step?
Is that to me?
That's to anybody.
I don't know the answer, so
And did Kate respond to you, Laura, with any other information?
she did not.
Okay, so let me,
As say the part of the original problem is it was not included in the list of goals. It was in the draft list as one of the goals to be considered, but was not included in the final list. And when we asked about that, we said, well, they'll talk about it in May town meeting. And there's this big gap between,
Right.
it's not yet on the list and going to town meeting. So that's one of the reasons we're really just not sure, what do we
But-
gear up for a presentation to town meeting? Are we even supposed to do that since we're not the study committee? We're not the committee that will be making a proposal to town meeting. We
Right.
can offer support, but
So the next step would be to have the select board appoint a study committee to do this. So we need to know what we have to do between now and then to get to that point, and what town meeting would be expecting from us in preparation for the meeting. And also what can and not, what can we do between now and then? That's not gonna start a process that's not been approved by town meeting.
Yeah. Are the select board members aware of the process that's
Yes.
laid out by the Massachusetts Historical Commission? Doesn't seem
They-
like they are.
well, we told them it doesn't mean that they are.
Right. Maybe it would be, one thing that could be done is we could go back and talk with Matt about the process. And also we have talked about making the Historical Commission a more visible entity in town. And that's something that we talked about doing with the Lost Needham and there's stuff on Facebook and stuff all over the place, to the point where everyone just says, oh yes, the Historical Commission. That's different from the History Center.
Right.
And they
That'd
finally
be
did it.
nice.
Dawn brought up a great point last meeting, our new members, we have an architect and we have Joe. I mean, we've got some,
Mhm.
we need to have certain people on this committee, and we have at least one who's a member. We have to get a realtor, we have to get, what's the other requirement?
An architect, a realtor.
We've
and
got
a
Leah. Leah's an
Historical
architect.
Society. So we have two of the
Yeah.
three.
Yeah, so we're just missing like, the realtor, and I mean, so we're close. I don't know how to package this all up and deliver it so that it can be voted on.
Yeah, well, I don't think it can be voted on. I think that if we follow the process, the select board needs to approve or appoint, with our help, a study committee. And it's the study committee's report that goes to town meeting. I'm not sure, and
Right.
in fact, I don't feel very comfortable with the fact that we're not following the process, and that sort of a cold presentation to town meeting, I don't think is to our benefit or the benefit of trying to create a local historic district.
Maybe we need a meeting to talk about the process, or I'm not sure how this would happen, but is there a way to, Kristen, set up a meeting with me or with Dawn or, and a select board member so we can make sure they really understand what has to happen? Because just saying we're going to vote on it in May at the town meeting, what are they going to vote on? I don't know.
So you can either reach out to Mary Ann, who's now the chair, or you can set up a chairs meeting with Mary Ann, Marcus, and Kate to get any clarification on what you need.
Okay, and do I do that through you?
Through Kate.
Just email her and say, this is, we want to be sure this is, okay.
Yep.
Okay. And Dawn, I'd like you to be part of that.
Sure.
I just don't want to get to May and then have
Right.
a vote that takes us nowhere farther than we are now. That's my worry. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's a follow-up plan. So I'll send an email to Kate. Should I copy the others, Kristen, or just to Kate?
Just to Kate.
Okay, and I'm gonna copy Dawn and just say we'd like to just have it set up a meeting so that we can go over what's involved in this process. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. That'll clarify a lot of things. And then once we do that, maybe we can figure out what's next between now and May. Oh, Leah, you have a question.
I do. Just if you're counting, I know I'm not officially a member yet, but if you're counting on me to check off the architect box, does the architect need to be registered in Massachusetts? Do you know that?
Needs to be an AIA architect. I'm not sure about the registration. Do you know?
I am a member of AIA. I'm just still working on getting my dual license. So I'm licensed in Pennsylvania. I'm just not in Massachusetts. I might very well be by May. I just want to know if I need to expedite that to help the committee out. I can do that. It just would be useful.
Okay, well, maybe we can look into that for sure and find out what the exact requirements are. There's enough information out
Okay.
there. License in Mass. Okay. So I know Joe and Leah, you don't know a lot of history about this. There's some things I can send you from the MHC, which is the Mass Historical Commission, on how to set up a local historic district. It's quite involved. And the first step is to set up a study committee made up of certain individuals. And sometimes the study committee is a separate committee, but in smaller places, can be the historic commission, provided there are certain required members on it. And then once the study committee is set up, then that's like sort of your launching pad to move forward. We have a property in mind, a location. It's just that we have to get through the logistics. Is that fair to say, Dawn? Is there anything else you want to add to that?
Well, yeah, it's important that it leads, the study committee report leads to a creation of a bylaw that would allow for the creation of local historic districts. So once we have the bylaw in place, it makes it easier to establish additional local historic districts
Right.
that would
Good
want
point.
to apply.
Right, because the bylaw obviously has to go to town meeting, so if
Right.
we have to
right.
wait till May to get the study committee appointed, then we're talking about, I mean, I don't know, would they do that at a special town meeting in October? I'm not sure. I'm not sure we could do both at the same time. Could we?
I'm sorry, Laura, do both what?
Could we get the study committee appointed and the bylaws approved by town?
No.
meeting at the
No,
same
because
time?
the study committee has to, they're part of the process of creating the bylaw.
So then
in
we're
their
talking,
report. Yeah.
okay, so then we're talking another maybe 6 months if it was to be in October. I don't know if that's okay, or maybe a year till the next May meeting. I'm not sure.
The work of the study committee has to be approved by Mass Historical Commission
Mhm.
before
That's right.
it can go to the town meeting. And at the town meeting, we need 2/3 in order to get the new bylaw, which is significant.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
So we're talking about maybe 2 years, 2 town meetings before this is done. Sounds like.
It could be, but one step at a time, I think would be a way to go. Let's begin it and see where we can get.
Okay. So our next step is to set up a meeting with Mary Ann via an email to Kate for Mary Ann, Marcus, Kate, Dawn, and me. Do you have that right?
Mhm.
Okay. Do we need a vote or a motion on that? Or no? I don't think so, right?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I have pugs that are hungry. Just to really, are we ready to move on to the next agenda item? Yep.
Mhm.
Two really quick things. There was a flyer that came out. Actually, before that, there was a letter I received from the Mass Historical Commission on a grant cycle. It involves grants and applying for them, and there's some paperwork involved. And I know, Rose, you had some comments on this, or Gloria, can you speak to this? I don't want to ignore it.
I think that one of the I had questions about it. The grant has to be for a specific thing. It would finish in 2024, and we would have to put up all of the money. And if we got the grant, we would get half of it back. Well, all we have is the $1,000 that we.
In budget.
Which
In the
grant
bu-
program is this? They have
This is
several.
the Massachusetts Historical Commission Survey and Planning Grant Cycle. It says at the State Historic Preservation Office, the Massachusetts Historical Commission is responsible for administering through the National Historic Preservation Act.
Yeah.
The act authorizes the Secretary of the Interior, blah, 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 to grant funds to communities and private nonprofit organizations for a wide range of preservation-related activities.
And is there, I seem to remember that there was a $10,000 minimum in there.
Have you
Which
guys,
is-
have you received this before in the
No.
past? No?
No,
Really?
I don't think so. Gloria, we've never done this, have we?
We've never done this before. I've seen these in I've seen in other contexts, but I've never had received it as part of the
So it's
historical commission. Let's see.
grant requests are between 7,500 and 15,000.
Oh, okay, 7,500.
Does it specify the purpose?
It does. Okay. It says the application will be reviewed and selected for an invitation to prepare a full application based on the following criteria. Demonstration, the project will present a public benefit by supporting local and state historic preservation priorities. Identification of the funding match source, demonstration that the match is in place or will be in by the time of the grant award. Demonstration of financial need, i.e. there's no financial support available other than this. Appropriateness of proposed project. Preference will be given to applications to demonstrate a clear understanding of the preservation needs of the community, and that proposed projects which address state, national, or local preservation goals. It's kind of vague. It's not really. I mean, the document, I can share it online. Here's some more information. Community-wide or targeted inventories of historic, architectural, landscape, or archaeological resources. Preparation of. Oh,
That's us. I mean, that's the inventory.
yeah. Preparation of National Register of Historic Places nominations. So if we want to do something on the National Registry, which I'm told is really, really difficult. I talked to someone at the town of Dedham that did that, and it's super tough to do. Other planning projects relating to the identification, evaluation, and protection of National Register eligible resources. Examples include community-wide historic preservation plan, development of a local historic district design guidelines, preparation of historic preservation public information. So, I mean, it's not a lot of money and it might be a giant pain, but we probably have some things that might come under it. Like
Yeah.
Rose said earlier, like we only have a budget of $1,000. Well, what if, I mean, I'm happy to fill this out just to see what happens.
I think that usually there is a two-part thing. You fill out an application saying that you're interested, and
Yes,
we would have to say what our project would be.
yeah,
And then
Whole
if
budget.
they liked it, they would say, yes, do the whole
Correct.
application.
that's exactly.
And then my question is, who writes the grant and who takes care of all of the finances for
I don't know
this?
how much grant writing there is.
There's a lot.
Why don't I have this in a PDF.
We'll just
Why
send
don't
it around.
I send it to you guys and you can take a look at it? And we can see if it's something that might help us with the LHD. Or not.
And, yeah. Okay.
It may not be worth it. I don't know. So I'll
Yeah,
send
send
it
it out.
I'll send it out to everybody.
Mhm.
And then there was just, a quick thing about library focus groups that was all the committee chairs were asked to share. Many of you probably got it in your email. Did you get
Mhm.
that?
No,
No,
Really?
You're a committee chair.
you're the chair. So,
Well, I know,
you
but
got
it was not just chairs, it was like interested people.
Yeah, so Laura, that gets sent to the chairs for the chairs to send out to their committees.
Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen. Or let me see if I can find it first. Yeah. Kristen, can I share my screen, please? Can't hear
It's
you.
still active for all panelists to be able to share.
Okay. hold on, let me get the document up. It wasn't like directly related to us, but it was something I was supposed to share. I don't know if I emailed it to you or not. I apologize if I didn't. Okay. Okay, here we go. Tell me if you guys can see it.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, can see it.
So- Okay.
Yeah.
So they're hosting focus groups. Rose, I think you saw this, no? I
No,
feel like I sent it to somebody.
I did not see it.
This is basically it. Focus groups to develop next strategic plan for the library. Those are the dates. Zoom
Okay,
only.
to work on the strategic plan for the library,
Correct.
which I have given the best years of my life.
I bet you have.
Oh, I did 3 strategic plans. So this
my
time
goodness.
they're
Didn't we just do one?
it's every 5 years.
Has it been that long?
Yes, it has.
And there still isn't a cafe. There still is not a cafe in the lobby.
But just wait, just you wait, just you wait. I think it's going to happen. But I think that what they've done this time, I don't think, I know that what they've done this time is they actually have hired a consultant to help with the strategic plan, which I think will make a big difference. So I know about this because I still keep my oar in.
So that was just something I was supposed to share.
Yep.
Probably would have been better to email it to you. I'm still wondering, like, what can I email? What can I can't? How many people can get the email? I'm still like, I don't want to.
Oh, I think
rules, I don't
that
wanna-
perhaps one of the things to mention to Joe and Leah is just that we can send out emails to the whole group, but
Mhm.
when we respond, we should respond just to the person who initiated the email, because we have to have public meetings. So that if I send you an email, you respond just to me, or if Laura sends you, just respond to her.
Otherwise, it's a violation of the open meeting law,
Open
which
meeting law.
I'm sure you guys got some. Did you get a packet yet or something that explains all that? Joe, when you swore in?
Yeah, she gave me a packet this morning when I got
Okay.
sworn in.
All right, so you'll get
And there's
one.
like a, and there's a something online we have to take.
To-
It takes
to
about
watch.
45 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's worthwhile. It really is. So okay, other business?
Yeah, I just wanted to report on something that I took part in a conversation. They didn't call it a presentation. It was a conversation with the Preservation Massachusetts, and I'm not sure anyone else has done any or has any contact with them. They're essentially the lobbyist group for historic preservation in the state.
Oh,
And I think, Rose, you brought this to my attention because it had to do with the Massachusetts Historic Rehabilitation Tax Credit. So I went into it thinking that it could possibly be used by residential properties. But when I asked directly about it, they said, no, it's just for commercial properties.
wow.
That they've tried this before for residential properties, and according to them, it just didn't get any traction. So I think it would be very difficult to do.
Okay.
The other thing about the meeting with them that I thought was really interesting was because they are a lobbyist group, they were talking about preservation, perhaps overall preservation strategy. And one of the things they talked about was establishing friend groups. Now, as a historical commission, we're just, 7 people. It's a small group. We don't have a lot of reach. We've tried in the past to do certain kinds of events, which we have to admit we're not very good at. We didn't get very far with that. But perhaps by expanding our friend group to include, it could be the broader historical society. It could be, and I wasn't familiar with the Needham Land Trust as a potential sort of friend of the Historical Commission. They do all kinds of events, so it's something that, if they become our friend and we are talking to them about the local historic districts and other initiatives that we would want to have, that it's a way of getting the word out rather than relying on doing a story in the newspaper. And we already have a big part of that too with Gloria's group, because anything that you put in your newsletter is going to go out to, hopefully friends of the Historical Commission, because they're the friends of history. One of the other things that I thought was kind of interesting is that local realtors are required to take training on a regular basis, and that the people on the Preservation Massachusetts said that one way of reaching the realtors is to get on their agenda for their training sessions to talk about historic properties. That's something that the Preservation Massachusetts does on a regular basis, but we could incorporate or ask them for some help in reaching the realtors in our community.
So
I thought it was
question, they talk about the realtors getting CE credits, continuing education credits for that type of education?
It probably is part of that. They didn't mention that specifically. They just said that realtors are required to take regular training and if possible, get it involved in one of their training sessions.
Because if you can get, if that's it's called continuing education, that every realtor has to have a certain number of those per year. And if this group can is certified to present that, then that's a big draw for realtors. And that would be great.
Yeah. So it's something that maybe we can look into, but the point I think that we're making is part of this overall strategy, which we talk about a lot of things that we want to do, and they're good initiatives, but I think we need sort of to reach a broader base more quickly rather than the entire Needham community. Perhaps it's part and pieces of people that can become sort of friends of the Historical Commission. So that's part of for a later conversation, but
yeah, no, that's. Can we do our own Facebook page, Kristen? Or no?
As the committee?
Yeah, could.
I don't see why not, but I would just have to ask the town.
I think that would be kind of cool, because then we could, like, Gloria has her newsletter that could go there. But I mean, I think we could just give updates on things. And I think part of the issue we have is people aren't aware of some of the things that are happening, right? They're just not, for whatever reason. And if we can bring them more to the forefront, we might be able to get some more support and understanding for the things we're trying to do.
We have been talking for a long time about making ourselves more visible. And we talked the last time about the slideshow of Lost Needham. And I sent out a short introduction and a thing about the Mills house in the middle, and then an ending thing. And the first and last paragraphs could be the same all the time, because it's 3 times for the normal mind, and use the pictures of houses that we have lost. And it's not going to
Absolutely.
make a great, and I sent that out, well, since the last meeting. I'll send it out again. But it would in fact get people starting to think about the whole issue of historic preservation.
And there's so many beautiful homes that aren't on the register because they're not from 1880, right? But they have such character. Yeah, you know, there's homes with like this, the slant, I'm not an architect, Leah, so can I, but you know, they have the slanted front, the homes with porches, there's so many homes that should be, that speak to the character of this town. And if we just put those out there and said, do you want to, do you want to lose these homes? I mean, I bet a lot of people would say, no, we don't want that. Yes, Leah.
Another thing I was thinking of too, kind of in part of what you were just talking about, but also with what Don was mentioning as far as friends of the commission. I'm not sure what sustainability goals Needham might have as a goals as a town, but that is something that from the architecture side of things we talk about all the time too, is that to preserve buildings and reuse existing buildings is far more sustainable than knocking them down and
Yes.
building new. So that is also something that if we could find partnerships with sustainability groups, that's something that we could maybe leverage as well.
Yeah.
Or, yeah. Go ahead, Don.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Leah was saying, that there's been, after the hurricane that went through Florida, I think there were a couple of pieces that talked about in the media about older homes are more, they've got the bones to survive some of these terrific changes in climate that we're beginning to experience. And so I think maybe beginning to compile the value of old homes, not just the amount of money that they might bring in as far as the sale is concerned, but all other kinds of value that an old property might have. And it's something just sort of in our arsenal of arguments about historic preservation.
Mhm.
Kristen, if you can find out whether we can set up our own Facebook page, I mean, think about what that could do for us. We could introduce members, we could talk about initiatives, we could show homes. I was taking pictures today driving home of these the homes that make Needham, but they're not on an inventory. But if you let those all go, we're gonna end up with a bunch of vinyl sided, 3,500 square foot homes on a lot that's 5,000 square feet. I mean, it's just like, there's so many beautiful houses here besides the ones that are listed. Okay, so that's great. Does anybody have any more comments about that? Joe?
No, I mean, I think those are certainly the sustainability that Leah brought up is a good idea. And then Don's idea with the Needham Land Trust. I know, just some of the more, I guess, prolific historic commissions in various towns, particularly down on the Cape. You see a lot of the historic commissions in those respective towns partnering. They all have land trusts in many of those towns. And a lot of that does include buying properties that have houses like with Reg, like a property like Reg is obviously the barrier you run into that is the financial resources needed to take that kind of job on. How big was that house? I was cutting in and out on my service. I didn't catch it. How big is a house, the Foster house?
Gloria, do you know?
12 bedrooms.
Wow.
12.
Um,
Because I mean that a $4 to $6 million restoration. That's a big number. I mean, I've done some.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it has not had a lot of maintenance recently.
So it's in pretty much deferred
It's-
maintenance. Gotcha.
It has some
Is it vacant, Gloria?
challenges. Right now, yes, it is.
It is.
Mrs. Foster passed away last year, I believe.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to see that.
10,000 square feet.
Wow,
The home is, okay.
my goodness.
Yeah, so that's definitely a couple, yeah. I mean, even at $250, $300 a square foot, you're getting up there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I pictured
a shame.
the house of Madeline. What was that orphanage where Madeline grew up in?
That
Yeah.
was in Paris.
So cool.
And if you look at the pictures that were posted, it's lovely inside. It has this big, sort of sweeping double stairway and high ceilings. It's a beautiful house, but it's in need of work. And and the attempt was made to sell it to to somebody who would want to buy it and live in it, but nobody was interested. I mean, it's 60
money.
acres of land. You're talking about, $20 million property.
Yeah.
Is there a P&S agreement currently between Northland and the estate? Does anyone know?
I
don't-
believe there is. I think there's a contingent PNS. It's going to depend. It
Right.
depends on it's contingent on their getting their permits.
Right. Yeah. The approval to do and
Yeah,
70
so
units for a parcel of that size doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, the 40B is pretty generous on the density
Yeah.
and how many units you could put on that. And I assume the town of Needham hasn't hit its quota, its percentage for
Oh, yes, it has.
40B
Yes, it
yet.
has.
It has.
Yes, we're at 12%, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, we have. Okay. So
we
yeah.
have- Yeah, which is why it's not. It's not
Is
a.
it why it's
that's
a, why it's a
friendly.
why it's a
it's
friendly
negotiated,
friendly
yeah,
40B?
negotiated 40B. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. 'Cause in my prior
Um,
life, I worked on for Mass Development Finance Agency, and we worked on a number of historic restoration stuff. We also did a lot of 40B stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes they go from friendly to unfriendly very quickly. But generally they go to unfriendly, and it doesn't end well for the community because the towns that say no haven't hit their threshold yet. So then the
Yeah.
state takes over and gives them those 300 units on 20 acres.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes really unfriendly.
Yeah, I mean, this is, and they're offering, they're offering the town a lot of acreage for, what my neighbors paid for their house on their 15,000 square feet of land. So it's hard to argue against it in a lot of ways. The only real negative in this whole thing is we hate to see the house go.
And so
Yeah.
Joe, and I've talked to you about this before, and I know this is a
Yeah.
huge hot potato. The bylaws in Needham protect only homes on the inventory, the town inventory of historic places or the state inventory.
Gotcha.
And then it's a 6-month delay.
Yeah, and then that's kind of why I was asking what the town threshold was for affordable housing, because the last thing you want to do at the last minute, because this process is, certainly started down the road quite a bit, is turn it, like I said, from friendly to unfriendly, and all of a sudden you went from 70 units to 350 units. But by the same token, do you want to put it on the inventory and, upset, rock the cart at this stage? I think from what I understand, there's a good rapport between Northland and the community and the administration of the town, and what they're kind of giving them. I mean, what would be interesting is there any way we can kind of have the town or the historic commission can have a say in with particularly with Leah's input, kind of on the design of those townhouses, to kind of maybe take in some various details of the Foster house, even though it's still not there.
It's a great question.
Just a thought.
Yeah. They
I'm
would,
just not sure of where we are, the town is with the timeline of all of that. I don't, how could we?
It's
run that up?
interesting that more has been posted because so little had been in advance of town meetings. How are you going to go to town meeting with essentially this blind proposal? So obviously, you couldn't, and a lot more now has been posted prior to town meeting. So we should take a look and see what the current proposal is. That may give us a better idea.
Yeah, I'm sure Northland has some sort of, drawings, renderings of, how they're laying out the property and what the townhouses will look like. I can't imagine they're gonna go through the level what they've gone through to date without some sort of,
Yeah.
hey, it's gonna look like this. Just a thought.
Yeah.
To Joe's point, I was wondering how much influence this commission has in that. I know there's the 6-month stay, but then beyond that, like, can we have input on that? Because I've worked with some other, right now I'm working in Brookline, and they definitely have huge sway on historic properties, especially depending on where in the town the project's located. So just being new, I was wondering, how much we get involved in that or not.
Not.
It's kind of what I figured, but I was curious.
Unfortunately, yeah, we have, it's, this is an argument actually we have between ourselves. I've had more than once between ourselves. The bylaw only specifies the demolition delay as our purview. And then it says vague things about offering advice. And so we run with the offering advice thing, as strongly and as frequently as we can. We have worked, there have been builders who are interested in historic preservation and renovation, and also interested in not having the process obstructed. So will come to us in advance of submitting the plans and saying, this is what I'm proposing, is it acceptable to the commission? Because if it is, then we are, if it's a good, if it's a good preservation plan, they're renovating the house, they're preserving the structure, that kind of thing. We have gone to the building department and said, we've seen the plans, on this date that were titled and dated this, and as presented, the board, the commission is in favor of them and does not, will not impose any further requirements. If there are any changes to this proposal, all bets are off. Our proposals are rescinded. So a builder who's willing to work with the commission and make these preservation decisions, and we can sort of have a win-win, but that's voluntary. We don't really have leverage other than the demolition delay. And honestly, 6 months is not effective.
No.
That's one of the reasons we're looking at this local historic district bylaw, because it's a much more effective preservation tool.
And I've also, I know I jumped in because I had to step up for a second, but I've done a lot of research on other towns' demo delays and requirements. And, that's another initiative. It's a big one because builders really like, how easy it is to come here and just tear down and build. But if this town really wants to keep its character, we have to make some changes. We can't we have the most forgiving bylaws of any neighboring town by far. By far. Not that extending the delay or requiring demolition plans is going to change anything, but it definitely makes you pause as a developer versus 6 months. The only thing you have to worry about is if it's on an inventory, and if it's not, it's yours. So that's an initiative of mine. I don't know. I think we need to focus on this LHD first, but in my life on this committee, if I can ever get to that bylaw, that's something I really want to do, because I just think if we really want to keep this town the way it looks, we got to do something more than what we're doing. Even the LHD is great, but it's sort of one section or home at a time, right? We need to do something broader, in my opinion. That's just my opinion.
As a builder contractor, the year delay, again, like I haven't torn any down because I have preserved all the houses that I've worked on.
That's awesome.
In smaller part. But I know a lot of builders in the industry, obviously, and yeah, it makes them downshift for sure, because holding a property like Newton has a year delay, holding a property for a year and carrying that mortgage, particularly in the Needham, Wellesley, Newton, in any of the areas in Metro West, you're not carrying not the $200,000 or $300,000, $400,000 houses, an insignificant amount of money, but carrying a mortgage, $1 million, $1.5 million house for a year before you can do anything to it, knock it down. That makes any developer that's not the big guys pause for sure. 100%, I can tell you that.
Especially now where rates are climbing, and we've already seen
Sure.
some changes, right? Because
Yeah.
rates have gone up, costs have gone up, and it has literally stopped projects and stopped
Yeah.
buyers from buying new construction. Anyway,
It has.
that's a conversation for a whole nother meeting, but I do think it's something we have to talk about. As long as everyone agrees, just to have the conversation about it. Rose, I'm so sorry you don't feel well. You're a champ.
I have to tell you that my doctor won't even let me in the office.
Oh, God.
I have to go to urgent care.
Oh, no. I'm
Right.
sorry. So to that point, so for the next meeting, I don't know how you all feel about hybrid Zoom in person. I probably should have asked this past time. I know Rose, I had some COVID exposures at my office. So my first reaction is if we can do Zoom, we should do it. But is it possible to get sort of a poll on what people think about how the meeting format should be?
I vote for in person if it's feasible. I think it adds a lot more value seeing people in person. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay. Dawn? Muted.
Yeah. I can go either way, honestly.
Okay. So we could do a hybrid. That's a possibility, right? Rose?
I'm not at this point allowed
I
to
know.
be with anyone, so
I know.
who knows?
Okay. Gloria?
I think hybrid is your best option for a while. I think in-person meetings are better, but it's not going to be possible for everybody.
Right. Okay.
As we know. I mean, I'm watchfully waiting. I was on a trip to a wedding in Texas this weekend, so went on a plane twice, and airplanes, frankly, are petri dishes. So
I know.
we were masked up, but I'm still counting the days until I can feel confident on being careful around people. So
I understand. Can I ask Leah what her preference would be for going forward, like with our next meeting? Leah?
I think hybrid is nice for me, especially going into winter too. I know that can be challenging for folks getting places, and I have a small kid, so flexibility is definitely appreciated for me.
Okay, did I miss anybody? We don't have Jeff here. By the way, I should have said that Jeff is absent from tonight's meeting. Okay, so is there any other business, anything else we have to discuss before we make a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
I'll second. Should I do a roll call? Okay,
Yeah, I guess so.
Gloria?
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
me, yes. Is there anybody else?
Oh, yes.
And
Oh,
yes,
Dawn, I'm sorry. Dawn, it's like Hollywood Squares. I'm so sorry, Dawn. Yes, okay. All right. Motion accepted. We are adjourned. I don't know, Kristen, if you want to stay on. I'm sure you don't.